Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Welcome to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning.
I'm Allan Gilbreth with darkoakmedia.com.
And I'm Maximilian, and let's see how many different ways we can make the hippies mad on Earth Day.
Oh, yeah. Today's Earth Day. That's right.
It is.
Okay. Well, I like the hippies, Max.
I just don't like seeing
Within
hippies
reason.
in an insulting manner.
Yeah. No, we love the hippies.
Right, I'm from there.
Touche.
There's
I'm
a lot
from
of
there. Yeah.
modern day hippies too that are kind of
Yes,
I think they're
they have
wannabes.
soap and stuff that we didn't use in the 60s.
Yeah, absolutely. So, if you're a hippie, we invite you to get in touch with us. You can call us or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline, 901-683-0989. And we invite you to go over to our very dynamic and active Tool Talk Radio Facebook page. We've already got 3 posts up there, Allan. I didn't wait. I didn't shirk my duties this morning. We've got our must-have item of the week, naturally. We've got a today we're gonna revisit a one of our historically terrible segments, Allan, and I'm not going to tell you. Well, should I tell them what it is? No, because we're going to get to it shortly.
Okay.
But we're shagging back to the 1970s.
No,
How's that? So
there we
okay.
go.
Another thing that I posted, Allan, is our great moments in building history. This week we're going to discuss. I don't know how much we're going to even discuss the building, because after you and I were talking about this, I think it's the side conversations that are going to come out of this.
We're going to snicker about the building.
So the building that we're celebrating this week is the Longaberger Basket Building in Newark, Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
It is a textbook example of novelty architecture.
That's putting it mildly.
Let's leave it at that.
Yeah, we'll put it like that.
If you want,
like the Godzilla Hotel.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd be interested to go there. Is it Godzilla shaped, or is it about Godzilla?
Yes.
I'd stay there. So yeah.
Yep.
Allan, in your week in review, which I think sounds like critical information, plumbing inspectors are your friends.
Oh yes.
I'd like to hope that. So there's a lot of good stuff today. I'm not going to over tease, because every time I do, we don't get to it.
Mm-hmm.
So, but Max, we do have a follow-up report from last week that I want to jump on. Actually, this affects both of us, Allan. Why don't you go first, sir? You had a follow-up report to our stethoscope conversation.
Well,
and if you're new to Tool Talk Radio, last week we were discussing the usefulness of stethoscopes in home improvement. Allan used it to detect a huge, massive water leak under a parking lot.
Yeah, we did that. We've also, another friend of mine tried using a stethoscope to find a leak in his house.
Stethoscope.
Yeah.
Get
New
back.
teeth this morning, not enough coffee.
Yeah.
However, the big stethoscope story came from a meeting Thursday afternoon, when one of the people in there went, I was listening to your show,
Yeah.
and I found that baby raccoon.
All right, where did they find this raccoon?
In the wall.
Of their house.
In the wall of their house. And so they cut a little 1 foot by 1 foot square, reached in and got the little critter, as opposed to tearing out different places in the walls trying to catch it. Right.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So,
what is that like, reaching in and trying to get you better have your
you
welding gloves
You put
on.
a glove on. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
But, the big thing was that they kept hearing that scratching in the walls. And, of course, it kind of echoes around the walls. They were trying to find it. And they said, well, it only took him about 10 minutes, and he just kind of kept easing down the wall. And finally, it scratched like right under the stethoscope. And he goes, about blew the earwax out of my head.
I was going to say, because they heard a subtle scratching, but yeah, you're not going to know exactly which stud or which, it's
But
in,
like
so,
you said, when you were playing with the stethoscope and you were listening to like the plumbing, how loud something really was right there. So when he had the stethoscope, honestly, right in front of the little critter, and it scratched the wall right then, he was like, aha, we got you.
Right.
You're right here.
Right.
Stay right there. We'll be there in a minute. So, Critter got to go to the animal rescue. They got a small patch in the wall. Everybody is happy. So once again, the stethoscope comes riding into the rescue.
I mean, okay, that is a good story. And I would say if you've got a stethoscope, walk around your house and put it to the walls and put it to the floor, and you'll be amazed the things you'll hear. I mean, it's louder than you think.
It is very interesting. It's very educational, especially at dusk.
Right.
Because that's when you hear your house doing all that moving that Joe and I are always telling you about.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. You'll hear the if somebody's walking upstairs, if somebody's whatever. So, so a stethoscope saved the day. I'm trying to think of what kind of parenting. What does this say about the parenting of a raccoon that they leave their little baby inside of a
Well, they couldn't
wall?
get. Well, it fell down, so the mother couldn't get to it anymore.
Oh, so this was a humanitarian.
This
operation.
was a rescue. This was a rescue operation.
Oh, okay.
Did they regroup with the mother?
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering.
I believe pest control people had removed the rest of the family by then.
Removed.
Wait a minute. So, okay. Maybe there's more.
They all went to
information
the
that we
animal.
want.
No, they all went to the animal rescue.
I was about to say the lone survivor.
No, not the lone survivor, but the one that had to be rescued. There's, Joe, you've had more than one child. You always have that one child that's
That
just
wanders
not
off.
quite. Yeah, right. There you go.
This sounds like the subject matter of like a Disney animated movie or something. Rascal the Raccoon or something. And, okay. Well, okay. But hey, listening to Tool Talk, you never know what you might what little tips you might pick up. So
Well, and they also found the flap under the roof where they had been getting in and out and had that repaired.
okay, good.
So once again, our advice proved valuable.
Okay. Well, hey, I have a follow-up report, and last week we were talking. Well, I was trying to gin up a conversation that I thought was worthy of merit, and we didn't get as much feedback as I would have liked. So if you want to weigh in this week, by all means. But our buddy Robbie, he told me that last week I got a text from him during the week.
Okay.
Avid listener. Robbie's one of our most loyal listeners, but he said, sometimes he has to get off to work on Saturday, so he tunes in as long as he can, and then he listens to the episode, after the fact. But he wanted to weigh in on his Star Wars.
Okay.
So what if you're new to Tool Talk Radio? Last week I made the comment that if you look beyond the stories of Star Wars, or if you look just beyond the character, what's going on, and you just admire the architecture, it's a great example of unique architecture and architecture design details. And I was saying that I would like to see some of our homes incorporating some of this stuff these days. There's unique lighting treatments, there's unique there's minimalism, but every time you walk onto a set of Star Wars, you're like, okay, it says something and it describes the scene. I don't know. It's a great example of unique architecture. And Robbie said that I got to paraphrase because this is a pretty long text, but he basically was saying that what always sticks with his mind is Aunt Beru's desert grotto, where Luke Skywalker grew up with the moisture farm and the blue milk and everything like that. So yeah.
Well, that's the one thing I'm gonna throw Star Trek and Star Wars in the same basket.
Okay.
And say that they've been good through their different shows and movies of having environmentally appropriate dwellings.
Right. Yeah.
So if it's on the desert planet like Aunt Beru's place, it's very, very much like a desert dwelling here in the United States. Mm-hmm. It would be adobe, and there would be a lot of airflow, and they wouldn't be some tight little shack sitting out in the sunshine.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a steel structure absorbing heat. It's underground too, so it's cooler down there. Yeah.
Exactly. It did all of the right things for its environment. And that's a credit to the people who make these shows, that they're not just kind of willy-nilly, stick a house out there and we're going to call it a whatever.
Right.
It's actually a lot of thought goes into it.
Yeah. Yeah, and exactly. He said that one sticks with him. He likes the utilitarian and minimalistic approach of whenever you're visiting an empire. And to me, what that says is, like, if you go into Emperor Palpatine's throne room, you're seeing there's his throne, there's the bottomless pit you're going to be thrown into if you annoy me, and that's about all there is. But great lighting too. You know, it's lit dramatically and everything. But
and great deflector shields.
Yeah, but I would just say if you want to weigh into again, I'm going to throw it out there. If there is any Star Wars architectural details that you think could realistically be incorporated into modern living, we'd love to hear from you, because like I said, there's some great lighting features. There's a lot of good.
Well, there's a lot of Star Trek stuff that is in our home now.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's here.
So we appreciate that, Robbie. And if you want to weigh in today, feel free about that. And of course, all of our other great conversations. Get in touch with us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline, 901-683-0989, and go to Tool Talk Radio's Facebook page and comment over there. But Allan, this is going to be fun. Let's get to it, man.
Oh my!
This armor's useless. Why do we even wear it?
Oh, you stink!
This is the worst.
Can you tell I've been waiting for this?
Yeah, Max really loves these things. All right, well, Allan, it didn't take much convincing to get you to talk about this topic. So we've lived through this. Max, you're younger. This is going to be foreign territory.
It still disgusts me, though, based on my Google search.
So in this week's episode of Historically Terrible, we are going to talk about one of the worst, really. 1970s shag carpeting.
How'd you guys survive?
Yeah, how did we live? Secondhand smoke, dangerous toys.
If it wasn't the
playgrounds,
Stone Age
especially.
where every animal's trying to kill you, it's every stupid thing that humans would do of trying to kill you.
Well, yeah, I'm not. When you say shag carpet, I really have no defense. It's kind of, you look at him and go, "What was the redeeming value?"
Yeah. Well,
really, there wasn't one.
if you're younger, I don't know if you appreciate. Okay, because we should mention there is shag carpeting again. I would say it's more like shag rugs. You get, my teenager, she had a one of these fluffy rugs in her room for a period of time till she got bored with it. But shag carpeting is a different matter, Allan. First, it's made of something different. It was in the whole house.
Yeah. Well, yeah. This is one of these things where technology arrived at a certain stage, and then we picked it up and ran with it like a 4-year-old with a brand new pair of scissors down the hallway.
Okay.
Of new materials. So we're looking at this point in time, the advent of basically, I'm going to call it nylon technologies.
Because is nylon basically the same as polyester? I remember a lot of polyester clothes in the 70s that were really uncomfortable.
Well, that's why I'm just going to call it the nylon technologies.
It's plastic clothes.
Because, it's
plastic shirts. That's what it really was.
It is petroleum derivative fibers.
Yeah. Yeah.
The look on Max's
TDS.
face, he goes, "What?
How you guys not get cooked up in your sweaters?
Oh no! If
No,
there was a
did.
fire in the club, the clothes went up first.
Yeah.
Trust me.
Oh, yeah.
Polyester clothing was such a terrible idea.
Mm-hmm.
However, suddenly we have artificial fibers. World War II is a little bit behind us.
Yeah, I don't know,
It's
30
20,
years.
30 years,
Yeah.
but I mean, everybody's still around. But you've got suddenly all of these new options and new colors started coming out. And that's when we got things like avocado green and harvest gold.
I remember a lot of the green. Yeah.
These were colors that you just weren't able to produce commercially until now. And now we just ran with them.
I don't want to deviate, but you talk about this a lot, Allan, and you even talk about it in printing. So you're saying that our ability to make bold and vibrant colors like that into certain materials, they didn't do so much of that back in the day. And then once they were able to, everything became about flashy colors, right?
That kind of makes me think of like ancient times, or not necessarily ancient times, but like the Renaissance, where it's like you had peasant color houses where they're just muted and boring, but it's like, oh, the way that you show your wealth and status is by, look how much color I have in this house versus you.
Right? Is that more or less
a
status symbol?
And the flip side to all that is usually really bright, dramatic colors were poisonous.
Well, it's more pigment, more whatever they
usually
used to
wasn't
get in
very
there.
good for you.
Right.
And another technological change that happened was screen printing.
Oh, okay.
Because now some guy in his basement with a little time on his hands could now create any color they wanted out of the 4 basic colors of screen printing. So here we go. T-shirts can now be printed. Colors can now be produced. So we have kind of an explosion, and shag carpet just is the centerpiece of all of this going on.
Yeah. Might I interject, or might I rather have Robbie interject? He was saying on the text line, Max, I knew that you were the smartest guy in the room, LOL. But he also said shag carpet is the equivalent to putting a diaper on your house and leaving it on for 20 years. Thank you, Robbie.
And can't really argue with him. So,
he's into hardwood floors.
Oh,
He must
yeah.
hate. Imagine shag carpeting over a beautiful hardwood floor.
All right, dude, that is what people did.
Right.
People had grown up on beautiful hardwood floors their whole lives, and I don't mean vinyl chloride. I don't mean plank stuff. I mean real hardwoods.
Right.
And now suddenly the carpet and wall covering revolution has begun, and now we are wallpapering and carpeting everything.
I don't want to patronize. But I don't want to assume anything either, because people Max's age may not even be able to relate to this. But basically, today a carpet fiber is what, like a half inch or three quarters of an inch long. It is not real long. But imagine taking a carpet fiber and making it like what were these, like 3 or 4 inches long?
There was shag, super shag, ultra shag. You could get stuff that looked like a pet.
It's like walking in your lawn or something, but it's carpet fibers, right? And so let's talk about the problems that creates.
Let's start with the fact I grew up with a family that had pets.
Right. I mean,
all right. You've never suffered pain as a child until you're running across the carpet and you snag a toe in a knot in the carpet.
So it's a tripping hazard.
Oh my!
Yeah,
it would throw you to the ground in ways Casper the Ghost had never thought of.
Right.
Oh my gosh!
Well, you got pets. How do you keep that clean?
Well,
you talk about man.
You want to talk? Well, when I talk about how human history stank, keep in mind smoking was still the big thing in those days too. Oh, so the ability to trap and hold odors.
You and I, how much secondhand smoke did we absorb as kids?
Oh, how many?
You go to an airplane, you go to a restaurant, you
smoked in hospitals back then. How many smoke haze filled rooms did we walk through?
Right. Congratulations, it's a baby boy. See,
with a cigarette in the mouth. Yeah, but it's impossible to keep clean. It's a tripping hazard, and
it's shed. Oh my gosh!
Right.
You could actually take a rake and rake that stuff and get enough stuff to go make a throw rug.
Here's another thing I remember about shag carpeting, Allan. It was almost like those parts of the lawn where it's like the kids run across the lawn instead they cut across instead of using the sidewalk. I remember there was the fluffy part of the carpeting, and then there was trails where the high traffic area. And, so that didn't look good either.
And you also had carpet rakes where you could restore the nap to your carpet, get rid of the trails.
Right.
So shag carpet was just
fluff up the carpeting.
And then you knew it was going to be a night when your friends pulled up in a van. And the entire inside of the van was shag carpeted.
Well, and I mean,
I'm sorry, I'm having flashbacks right now talking about shag carpet.
Well, that was a quick, easy way to just.
Oh, and then the horror is a few years later when the luster is gone and you're like, all right, this stuff smells.
Right.
We got to get it out of here. Oh, the ripping out of the shag carpet was just horrifying.
Yeah, you better wear a gas mask
because that stuff now weighed like 4 times as much as it did when it went in, because it's impacted with all of your skin cells and dirt and everything else. And keep in mind, really, realistically, early at this stage of the game, the only way we had to clean these things was you went down to your local big grocery store and you rented a steam cleaner. Which was this giant box,
right?
And it jerked and bounced and sprayed water everywhere. And so you would end up soaking the carpet and then trying to suck as much of the water out of it as you could. And then you nap raked it all back up so that it stood up. And then your feet were wet for like the next 3 days while this stuff tried to dry.
And it's going into your floor, and it's going into your whatever. So yeah, there was a lot of. It's funny now that you're saying this, Alan. As a kid, I remember. I hate to use this term, but you'd walk into somebody's house and there was this old lady smell, or this old.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there was or more of a what I would call almost a haunted house smell.
Yes.
And it was because you just think of all the things back then that trapped moisture that we just took for granted, didn't think about it. Like I'm so conscientious about moisture now, like content, just because I know the damage it can do to, with everything.
Well, it's our fascination with whatever is new.
Right. Yeah.
So new technology comes along and, wow, this looks like a great idea. And a few years later, you look back and go, that wasn't as smart an idea as we thought it was.
No, absolutely.
And, dishwasher, good idea.
Yeah.
Carpeting in the bathroom wasn't our best idea.
Right.
And then you got to undo all that. So.
Exactly. So, all right, historically terrible shag carpeting.
Oh.
I'd say that. Well, okay, 1970s. There's
Yeah.
some modern ones that are okay. So, if you've got any suggestions for historically terrible, we'd love to hear them because we'll we'll add them to the list. You and I have no shortage of items we're going to be. It's a good way to, it's kind of a good way for us to vent too.
Oh,
Some of these items are still around. So.
I mean, hey, therapy is all about bringing back past trauma.
Exactly. So get in touch with us. You can shoot us a text at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline, 901-683-0989, and we'll add it to our list. You're listening to Tool Talk Radio here at News Talk 98.9 The Roar Memphis. We're going to take a quick break. Then we're going to discuss Allan's Week in Review.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
I haven't seen you fellas since you destroyed my home, my land, and my rocket.
News Talk 98.9, The Roar of Memphis.
Well, I mean, why we're going to come back? It's like, okay, I'm steering clear of that guy.
Yeah,
So.
well, that rocket was not flight worthy. What can I say?
There you go. And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. And we invite you to go to Tool Talk Radio on Facebook and check out the action over there. There's a few posts of interest there. We have our must-have item of the week. We have our Great Moments in Building History conversation coming up, all about the Longaberger Basket Building. And also, if you're just tuning in, boy, you missed a fun discussion. All our historically terrible segment where we discussed 1970s shag carpeting.
I'm still having the creeps from that one.
And an ongoing theme, because people are weighing in on it again, is if you have any thoughts about incorporating Star Wars architecture and design elements into modern homes, which I think is a good idea. It doesn't mean your whole house is going to have like a droid charging station or whatever, but there's lighting features.
Yours doesn't.
Well, I can't. No comment. But there's a lot of nice design elements and accoutrements that are worthy of bringing into our homes today. And Max, you said I was surprised that Agent 732 didn't weigh in, and you go, "Oh yes, they did actually." So,
yes, the agent has spoken.
So what does he or she have to say about this?
Well, they said the set for Star Wars had to be both alien and accessible, a different place, but people could live there. Star Trek had a tougher struggle of what would the thing we use now look like in a couple hundred years, i.e. like flip phone communicators.
Okay. All right, that is a good point. So they had to project. They had to look at what we would do and project out. So,
I mean, if you think about it, they predicted cell phones.
Oh, they were way ahead of the.
They predicted
tablets.
tablets.
Talking about Kirk's flip communicator.
Well, yeah, the communicator, the flip phone, was basically a cell phone as far as we're concerned. I remember Picard early on. I remember Scotty walking around with a tablet.
Basically an
iPad.
iPad.
A flat computer.
Right.
And we were still sitting there with the 40-pound monster with the huge CRT, I'm looking at this little 1-inch thick monitor here.
Right.
During those days, our monitors were 2 feet deep.
Right.
And weighed 30 pounds. And he's walking around with this little piece of, little flat clipboard thing in his hand.
Sure. Yeah.
Next thing you know, tablets become a thing. Now, I remember one time when my father was in the hospital, I saw a tricorder get used.
Okay.
It made these Star Trek noise.
Yeah.
They aimed it and then aimed at something else and started printing. And I mean, this was early in the game, so this was still pretty Star Trek. So, yeah.
All right. Well, that's a worthy. I'm still looking more for the architecture. That's kind of my thing. But Max did some.
Robbie also kind of inquired, perhaps maybe the Robo Kitty litter box qualifies as a Star Wars.
Oh yeah, that definitely qualifies.
Yeah, If you're living on Coruscant, you're not going to take your. Well, they don't have any parks there, I guess.
If I'm thinking of like a Star Wars equivalent to the Robo litter box, I'm just thinking of B2 from Andor, that big boxy robot. It's like poor
How'd
B2.
y'all do that poor robot's programming? Oh, another cat.
All right. Well, we're straying a little far into Geek Tank territory, but we appreciate you guys weighing in on that. I'm still, like I said, I'm more thinking of the aesthetics and stuff like that. So, Allan, put a pin in it. You mentioned something about electrical stuff that I want to ask. I have an electrical question regarding a phone charger that I want to ask on the air because I wonder if anybody else has had that. So we're going to get to that in a minute. Before we do, though, you know who I want to talk about? Our good buddy Larry Brown with Brown Refrigeration.
Smart home systems.
Okay. Later in the show, we're going to be talking about a company that does not let's just say in our opinion does not have a solid business model.
They didn't.
They didn't, and they paid the price. You know who does have a great business model is Larry Brown with Brown Refrigeration. You think about the things he's seen. Having your own, having a company, a successful company through 40, we're getting closer to 50 years with Brown Refrigeration.
Yes.
Think of the things that company has seen. Think of the eras that it's
They started at the end of shag carpet.
Right. That's what you want. You want somebody that not only has weathered all the storms, but they can anticipate. That's the other thing about the Brown Refrigeration business culture. They're constantly evolving and they adapt immediately to the latest technology. They incorporate basically the best of whatever that generation has to bring. I'm sounding very dramatic about this.
You are.
But it is true. It's just an observation, and what it creates is a very dynamic and just a very solid business culture, and that's what you want with your HVAC company. You do not want to play games with your HVAC system. That is one of the most important features of your home, and if it's not running properly, well, for one thing, it's going to be way more expensive, and it's also destined to fail, which you don't want that. So get in touch with Brown Refrigeration for tune-ups. You should at least have them out once or twice a year. These tune-ups are very minimal. They can anticipate problems. They can do tweaks here and there to keep it running properly. But also what's great is Brown Refrigeration works with, like we said, the latest technology. They work with train systems, which are just, it's interesting when you look at a HVAC system from, 30 years ago to today, how much they've evolved and how efficient they are, and just how it just with the smart home systems, and then of course the big evolution too has been the Remy Halo system with basically using the UV power of the sun to kick out cleaning. It cleans the air, then kicks out the cleaning particulates that clean every surface they land on. So if you've got shag carpeting all over your house, I don't know if it can combat all of that, but
I'm not sure anything can overcome shag, but it's a good chart.
Good
start.
And if you need to replace your system and maybe you want to finance it, they've got great financing as well. All sorts of great options. So give them a call. They answer their phones. Another great part of their business culture. And get in touch with them. You can call them directly at 901-362-1881 or go to their very easy-to-remember website, brownref.com. Also, they have a great Facebook page. We need to pitch that more often. They have a pretty dynamic Facebook page, I would say. So check it out, Brown Refrigeration. Great company. Hey, Allan, okay, I don't know if this is just my phone or something, but this is everybody has a phone now. They have a smartphone or something, and a lot of we have USB ports. Some of them in our electrical outlets and things like that. Okay, Alan, I bought this charging cord. Now, granted, I'm still on an iPhone 6, which is from 100 years ago.
I had one of those 10 years ago too, Joe.
Okay,
so, yeah.
Well, on this one cord, in fact, I'm looking at it right now. Is it possible to have a charging cord that actually drains power from your phone? Because I swear, I'm looking at this and it hasn't moved in the last hour or so. And I mean, I am in the market possibly for a new phone, but my phone works and I don't drop it. But this charger, when I use it, it seems to drain power.
Okay, that is probably your battery.
Yeah, but my battery health is 96%. So it's only this charger. If I plug it in with the one in my car, it works great. If I plug it in at home, it works great.
Then you have a defective charger. But yes, electricity flows both ways. So if
the reason I asked is because we may have items in our home. That's what I was asking is.
Now if you want to talk about phantom electricity.
That's what I was getting at. Because
let's talk about phantom electricity.
Because I feel like this is an important thing. We might have appliances. We might have our phone. And if it's acting weird, maybe it's not the phone. Maybe it's a charger. Or maybe it's,
Oh, you are very correct.
Okay. That's what I wanted to talk about. Phantom. So that's what we're talking.
Yes,
phantom
we're talking phantom power.
Okay.
All right. So basically, let's take a look at your house and let's understand the basics of how modern electrical equipment is set up.
Okay.
So you have a generation station, usually formed by your municipality, and they send a lot of voltage out into the field using AC systems.
Okay.
All right. An AC system basically loads electrons into the line and then just keeps pushing more in behind it and shoves them down the line.
So if we're thinking of it as water, it's just
it's water coming in pulses.
Oh, okay.
Direct current would be constant pressure.
Okay.
But AC is this cycle. That's where we get, the 110 volts and 60 hertz.
Okay, gotcha.
60 hertz is generally 1,800 RPMs.
Okay. You're giving me a lot of things.
All right, there's a lot of stuff just to get to the house. Okay,
right.
Then you have a junction, and we don't just take the power and run it all over the house. We run it into a box. That box is the breaker box, in which your electrician has designated these lines over here. This is what's going to run your dryer.
Is it correct to when you're describing it, because I'm going back to my water, because you got to explain this like I'm 5 years old when it comes to electricity. So I'm picturing what if you had a strainer, like a spaghetti strainer?
Right.
Okay, and then you have some of there's all these little holes, but what if you poked like a big hole in one? So through that hole,
that's exactly
a bunch of water is going to come out through these little holes, a small amount. So if you have an outlet that is powering your computer versus one that's powering like a double oven or a washing machine or something like that. So that's
a great example.
Okay.
That is your breaker box.
Okay. So the breaker box is the spaghetti strainer.
It is the spaghetti strainer in that particular example. So your electrician has designated the lines for, let's say, a 3-phase air conditioner or heater.
Okay.
So that means there's going to be 3 cords that go to that unit, and they're going to carry the proper voltage for that unit. Now, where you get into kind of an interest is that the breaker separates each of the normal everyday lines out into your house, which are normally 15 or 20 amps.
Right.
And amps is the amount of work. But because you've got a series of these running around the walls and you have stuff plugged in, even though it's not on, it is now part of the electron storage in your house. So, like your computer, you didn't unplug it. You didn't remove it from the circuit. So it is still a part of it. And if you have remote on, then it is still drawing a very small amount of power.
See, that's what I've heard. I've heard if your appliances, obviously the microwave, if it's plugged in, the little clock is working.
Is on.
But even if you have an appliance where nothing appears to be on, it's still technically drawing a little power.
It
right?
is still connected to
Right.
that network of power. Electrons are still being stored as a part of that system.
Okay.
So what can happen is something like a surge protector, which stores power.
Right.
If it's getting older and defective, power may be coming and going both ways.
See, that's okay. That's getting back to my original. How does it go the other way? That's what I'm trying to figure out. Like,
Well, if
what
the,
causes that?
Well, if the fail safe in there, or let's just say physically something has failed, a small piece of plastic that separated the two metal plates from each other has failed, and now electricity is crossing over. You can actually create a short circuit.
Okay. Now you're making me think, Alan. What if you've got an extension cord, or you got a cord, and you stretch it? For whatever reason, you stretch it. Well, the inside of that plastic and everything, if it breaks, now those two wires could be playing off each other, or they could be coming into contact.
They could be coming into contact.
And that would draw electricity out the other way or something.
Anytime you shorten a circuit, you are looping electricity back around the other way onto itself, because electricity works much like water. You got to think of it kind of like if you put it in, it's got to come out. So you've got a hot and a neutral.
It's okay. Sorry, but you're making me think, Alan, because I've seen this, and I was guilty of this when I was younger. In my younger days, if I wanted to yank a cord out of the wall, like if I was just like, okay, I've plugged my extension cord in, I'm just going to grab it.
Right.
Well, if if that plug is in there and you just yank it by the cord itself, every time you do that, you're probably loosening the attachment and you're weakening it.
You're definitely weakening the socket.
The better way is to grab it by the actual plug and unplug
it. Correct.
Because I'm thinking with this charger that I've got here, I wonder if at some point I yanked it too hard, or I somehow when I was winding it up I stretched it and whatever. I'm just going to go buy another one.
Yeah, I would.
But so in other words, you got to respect your extension cords and your basically your cords, right? So.
And happily with USB cords and stuff, we're getting away from everything on the planet running on 120
right.
or 110. We're now running on much less voltage than that. Like your doorbell runs on 24 volts. So the lesser the voltage, the less likely it is to arc out and catch on fire.
It's just going to do like this is doing, or just drains it more.
It can create all kinds of havoc going on in there, because I don't know what's going on the circuit board.
Right.
Because the other thing that happens to electrical devices today is you'll get a crack in the circuit board, and the lead coursing, the lead traces that you see on these boards can become disenfranchised. They can overheat. They can begin to provide a lot more impedance,
right?
AKA resistance. And this is where I go back to my, when I go back to being a jerk in my ghost hunting days of walking around with a temperature gauge, and I would check the temperature of every single wall socket in the walls.
Right.
Because when, that wall socket right here next to us is pretty much the same temperature as the room, you're fine. Mm-hmm. But then you get to the one in the corner where Dad constantly keeps cracking the whip on the vacuum cleaner cord and snatching it out of the wall.
Right.
And that socket is now 5 or 6 degrees warmer than the room. Mm-hmm. You've got damage to that socket, and it's beginning to resist, and it's building up heat, and that's where you can possibly get a house fire.
Okay. All right. Well,
so be kind to your electrical equipment, and it won't burn down your house.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'd be curious if anybody else has ever had that, where they have basically a reversal of something just because of one faulty cord or one charging thing. So
well, I'm sure they do.
Yeah. So okay. Well, I appreciate you doing that on the air, Alan, because I think I'm just going to go get another cord.
Yes, I would definitely get better equipment.
I know it's funny because this iPhone 6, it's more or less. You remember that episode of Seinfeld when Kramer and that guy were driving the car until it ran out of gas, and it was like turning into this big adventure. And that's kind of how this phone is. Until it's just dead, I'm going to use it till just, more of as a scientific experiment. So, okay. Well, Alan, let's change gears, okay?
the humanity.
And now that we've woken everybody up or blown out their ear. So it's time for Allan's Week in Review. If you're new to Tool Talk Radio, Allan is one thing about Allan is he works in a commercial setting, dealing with state regulations, dealing with facilities that have they could be 200,000 square foot facilities. Yep. And he's responsible for all of the maintenance and keeping those in shape. So you never know what he's going to be up to on a given week. And so we like to review that. And what were you up to this week, my friend?
Well, I got two cases. One of them is water damage ceilings, and the other is the plumbing inspector is your friend.
Let's go there first.
Let's go to the plumbing inspector first.
I'd like to think they are. I mean, I hope they're our friends. So.
Well, in the DIY business, people like to do stuff themselves.
Yeah.
And there's a limit to what you should do yourself. Right. And there are reasons why we have codes.
Yeah.
There are reasons.
Tell that to the guy that owned my house about 40 years ago, whoever he might be. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
I don't think he
didn't
believed
have
in codes.
So, he didn't have codes.
Okay.
Because I don't think toilets on your roof were in the zoning ordinance.
Oh, no. This is way before that.
So,
okay.
The guy who built your house was also, as we like to say, they closed the door.
Yeah. Yes. All right, so plumbing inspectors.
So here we go. Of one of them, I'll pick on one of my neighbors who has been desperately for the last couple of weeks searching for a leak coming out from underneath his foundation.
Oh boy, yeah.
And as he has searched for this and has researched this and has worked with the municipalities on this, he's discovering that a house built in the late 60s, early 70s, there was a running gag that said contractors bury their dead.
Yeah. Well, it was the Wild West back then.
Yeah, he's dug up a lot of the dead around his house trying to solve this problem.
Oh, man.
The amount of concrete and rocks and just weird debris, a foot or two underground. So obviously it was there at the construction of the house.
Right.
And bless his heart, he has diligently attempted to not dig up the foundation of his house.
So this is different than the stethoscope thing you fixed.
Well, this one's a little more serious. Yeah, this one got a little bigger than that.
And if you have a water leak under your house, you don't ignore that because now it's creating a sinkhole and now you're compromising the foundation. You're making a place for critters to or mosquitoes to breed. It's just a one after the other.
Your backyard is becoming a rice paddy.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So thank goodness he finally got hold of a buddy of his who was an excellent plumber, by the way.
Oh, good.
And in trying to find the lines across the front yard and where they should have been and what was the standard for the time versus the standard now, because the standard now is you can track things by where they put the cleanouts.
Right. Like you can do some deductive reasoning and find where the lines are running under the yard and under the
right.
And
but,
hopefully
the
under
cleanouts
the
right here.
Right.
This connection's right here.
Right.
The chances that your pipe is right here is a good 90%.
Right.
Well, like you said, this is a little bit more of the Wild Wild West. So it looks like a gopher went mad in this poor guy's yard because we ended up digging a trenching all the way around the front of the house, and we ended up having to go back out to the meter by the street to dig up there to find out what angle that pipe was going across, and nothing in his front yard was straight.
Oh, man.
I mean, this went to that angle and then had a hard left turn and went that direction over there. And, this would have never gotten past a modern plumbing inspector.
Because every corner that the water has to turn is a place where the toilet paper can clog up.
It's a point of failure.
Whatever. Right. It's a point of failure. So, yeah.
So, bless his heart, working with a good plumber. And, of course, the plumbing inspector came out and was telling him the woeful stories of the early 70s.
Yeah.
And that how what they were doing was big thumbs up and this was going to fix the problem and you were going to be good for another 50 years and you weren't going to have to worry about this ever again.
Okay, because what you're saying there, Allan, about the plumbing inspector, and well, let's face it, you're doing a home improvement project yourself. you're kind of dreading that inspection process. But then again, when the inspector comes and they sign off, it's very exciting. You're like, I've done this up to code. I can sleep well tonight. But what you're pointing out is something else that's important, because the inspectors are also really good at identifying problems that happened 70 years ago, and they're like, so they're kind of a wealth of knowledge. They should be anyway. Well, and so they can come out and probably help you anticipate a lot of problems. And so you should tap into that knowledge that they have. So
it's not a person you should dread.
Right.
But there is also no excuse to not fix it correctly.
Right.
Because it is your home.
Well,
and especially when we're talking water and sewer.
Yeah.
Woo.
Yeah, you got to get it right. So, so in other words, the role that the inspector served in this situation was basically their expertise. Is that what you're saying? I mean, they're of what was going on in the past.
Verification of what we discovered, and the verification that our solution was the right one, was done correctly, and you got a stamp of approval. Here you go.
Instead of just digging up the whole yard and guessing. Well, I mean, it's tempting to do that, but it could be intimidating to call, but just get beyond your fears and just give them a call.
It was worth the call.
Okay, cool. Hey, Allan, hour 1 of Tool Talk Radio is in the can. I don't know where it went. In the can. Okay, but hour 2 is coming up, and among other things, we're gonna talk about our great moments in building history, the Longaberger Basket Building. We're gonna take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis. Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
And welcome to hour 2 of Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. And we invite you to go to Tool Talk Radio on Facebook and check out what's going on over there. If you're just tuning in, we've got a few juicy things over there, especially, boy, I feel sorry for you if you missed our discussion about 1970s shag carpeting, which we discussed in our historically terrible segment. But, Allan gave us sort of he answered a electrical question on the spot that I threw at him about basically, faulty electrical cords draining power and working in reverse, basically, more or less. So good stuff. But if Allan, what if they miss something and they're just crying into their coffee because it's like, well, I can never hear that again. I woke up late and I missed Tool Talk Radio's first hour. Well, never fear, right?
We have the answer for you.
Okay.
Because we are a part of the amazing podcast world.
Yeah.
So you can find us on Spotify and or YouTube. All you have to do is look up Tool Talk Radio or Dark Oak Media.
Yeah.
We are there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And we actually have hundreds of hours of content for people to binge.
Oh, yeah. You can binge listen. It's a lot of fun. You can even, 98.9, you can go to 98.9. The Roar, their website as well. So it's there's no reason to fret, no reason to fear.
Yeah, just like us and subscribe.
Yeah, and give it. Yeah, you know what? We don't ever plug that enough. You should give us a 5-star review because what that means is, it helps us and it helps other people find the show. So, Allan, shortly we're going to get to our great moments in building history, but before we do that, we have let's get to our must-have item of the week. So. I've already posted this on Facebook. This is I called this the timeless. I guess it's sort of timeless, but tell people what I'm holding up here.
You are holding up the infamous punch awl.
Okay, so this is a punch awl.
Yep.
AWL.
And it can punch all.
You really can.
This thing is about as basic as you can get. It's a wooden handle. I don't even know how many years I've had this. You can tell this looks probably 30 years old, right?
Those date back, honestly, thousands of years to early leather working. It's just basically a spike and a handle.
Robbie thought it was an ice pick or something, which I guess you could. You could use it for, I mean, I don't know. But
I've used them for that.
It's mine. Okay, so there's some that they have a wooden handle. This is, I mean, I bet you I paid $5 for this, maybe $3 back in the day. This is it's as basic of a tool as you can get, but you you definitely want one in your arsenal because, well, Max, you've used this in your day of cosplaying, right? For
Not the punch awl, but I've used like the clamp leather awl. You know, like the thing that looks like a hole punch for like paper. So I've used an equivalent.
to punch holes in leather
For cosplay, yeah.
for cosplay and everything. So, but Alan, this is, I mean, okay, I use this when I'm working on my lathe, and I, when you first get the wood set up in the lathe, you need a little small hole so that the chuck will grab it and everything. This is a nice. I almost don't even need a hammer with this. I just more or less line up where the hole's going to go, and I just put a little weight because it's on the end grain. But these things are very handy, and I'll confess I've used it for purposes that you weren't supposed to use it for, too.
That would be mostly what I use it for. But
what's your favorite application for the old awl?
You don't want to ask me.
Yeah,
you don't want to ask him either.
is-
Not as a weapon either, Alan. So,
we're gonna skip the days as a ninja.
Right, okay.
We're gonna go for lining up the holes.
Okay. What do you mean by
Oh
that?
my gosh. The number of pieces of equipment I've had to put together where you got to get 2 or 3 things lined up, one to the other through, and you got to put a screw through all 4 holes.
Oh, gotcha.
Man, that thing right there is invaluable. Just run him down there, get everybody lined up so they're all in sync. Hold everybody carefully, slide him out, slide the screw in, put the nut on the other end. Saves. That one tool has probably saved my life a year of just downtime trying to line stuff up.
Yeah. And it's simple and it's basic. I will say, now one thing on this, I was looking closely at it, Alan. The tip has a tiny little bend in it,
Those fix that with a grinder.
You can fix that with or even a file or something. Maybe you don't have a grinder, but you definitely want that because that little deviation will send it sideways or whatever. So, but an awl, I'd love to know if anybody out there's got any good awl stories.
Oh my gosh,
so
many of yeah.
If you do, get in touch with us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline, 901-683-0989, and share your adventures. Hey, speaking of the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline, let's talk about our good buddy Jay Hill.
Yeah.
Alan, it was another one of these weeks where I was just sitting back during the torrential rains and everything, and looking up at the ceiling and admiring my, thinking about my Big M roof that I have on my home. And you and I have been through this. I mean, in the old days, I've talked about this on the air. Before I met Jay Hill, boy, I had constant roof issues, and I was every time it rained, I dreaded it. And plus it was just. I don't know. There's the peace of mind factor, and the fact that my house is no longer being damaged from leaking water. But boy, the roof is something you have to get right. Your roof is fundamental. I mean, what else is more important than the roof?
Oh, well, and the fact that Jay looks at your whole exterior of your building as one shot. He starts at the roof and then goes, okay, let's talk about the roof. Let's talk about the gutters. Let's talk about the siding. Let's talk about bulletproofing your home.
Right. Well, that's the thing about it. It's I like Jay's emphasis on basically the exterior protection of your home, because I mean, when these things are no longer these things are all systems. The gutter system, the siding, they all work in harmony, and Jay is an expert at all of these exterior systems. With the roofing, of course, he works with GAF, and he's a master elite installer. He's always 5 stars with the Better Business Bureau. The thing about Jay that we always like to showcase, however, is in addition to using top-notch materials and systems for the exterior of your home, is he's also a former insurance agent. So you may be in a situation where maybe your roof was damaged, maybe your the siding, maybe the windows, maybe you have some damage that's actually covered by your homeowner's insurance. Well, you need to know that, and you can't just call up your insurance company and say, I have this damage, and come over and fix it. It doesn't really work that way. You more or less need an advocate on your side. And so when you have these issues, Jay Hill will come over. It's a free consultation, and he will let you know whether you have a path forward with that. And if you do, man, is that an exciting proposition that you and I have both benefited from his expertise.
Yes.
And if you don't, then he'll let you know that as well. But you'll you'll leave the meeting with all the information you need to make the next decision. And of course, you may want to finance this project on the outside of your home. Well, if you need to do that, Jay's got 30 lenders at his disposal. You can apply, you can qualify literally. I mean, probably I think it takes like 90 seconds to qualify.
It's not long.
You get approved by a certain number of lenders, and then you start looking through the terms that work for you, and then you're in control, and you choose that. So great people, great business culture, rock solid company, and he's just a fun guy anyway. Jay's, just call Jay if you're bored and you want to talk about sports or something else. Don't call him if you want to talk about Star Wars or Batman, because he's totally clueless.
Not a geek.
But get in touch with Jay. You can call him directly at 901-484-5645 or go to bigmroofingandremodeling.com. All right, Allan, this is going to be a wide-ranging and very interesting discussion. Let's dive in.
Great moments in building history.
Okay, Allan, great moments in building history doesn't always mean unlimited success and great, I don't know. It isn't always. We deal with the good, the bad, and the ugly. But I wonder if we just need to start calling this noteworthy moments in building history. But this is a more modern construction, and really, I don't know how much time we're even going to dwell on the actual construction.
It sounds so boring, though, when you put in an application. It's like the episode of The Simpsons where it's like, well, let's go visit the box factory. It's like, do we get to see a finished box, sir? He's like, no, that takes place in Flint, Michigan.
Yeah.
So here we go. We're going to talk about the Longaberger Basket Building.
Do we get to see a complete
Ohio.
Basket, sir?
Yeah.
Well, you're driving down Ohio State Route 16, and off in the distance you go, huh?
Yeah.
Did somebody leave a lunch basket over there? As a matter of fact, they did, all 7 stories of it.
Yeah, so it's a 7-story building, and it looks, I will give him credit. Basically, the owner of the company, Mr. Long, what is his first name? Anyway, is it John Longaberger? Anyway, he wanted his building. Now, okay, maybe we got to paint a bigger picture. So they make baskets, Allan. I think there's nothing wrong with that. That's a legitimate company. If you look around, the baskets are used all over the place. Florists,
yes.
Easter baskets. You might have baskets for decorative purpose. There's baskets everywhere if you really pay attention and look, and somebody has to make those baskets. So that's what they do.
And I will give a Longaberger basket massive props in the fact that it is a hardwood basket.
Right.
Normally maple.
Mm-hmm.
And they are very handcrafted and very durable.
Yeah, they take a lot of pride in their quality.
And they really began back about 1919, kind of one of those Great Depression things of the Longaberger family made baskets, continued making baskets, and around 73, they started selling baskets through home shows.
Right.
And one of the big marketing models of the 70s, but we're just bouncing on the 70s, was what they called multi-level marketing.
Okay.
So Joe signs me up, and I sign up Max, and Max signs up Ditch. And
sounds like a pyramid scheme.
Well,
no. Everybody gets a certain percentage.
Right.
The more middlemen you're including,
and the more
lesser
people
your
are out
profits.
there selling baskets, the better it is. And that type of business did extremely well for a while. And then, the recession came along around 2000. And by 2008, it's,
The internet. Okay, because let's talk about the building, Allan, and then we're going to talk about all the side thing, because really it's okay, let me back up. Let me just say this. Keep this in the back of your mind, folks. I have there's a guy out that I've made friends with, Steve. He has a hot dog cart, Allan.
Right.
Delicious hot. I've never had a bad meal there. If I'm in a hurry and I'm in that part of town, he sets up at this one part of town and he sells hot dog, the Nathan's hot dogs, right?
Right.
I get a couple of those. I get in, I get out, I get my hot dogs, and he told me we got to talking about his business. Well, basically he pulls up with this thing. He bought the thing outright for, I don't know, $1,000 or something.
Right.
He sets up. He probably makes $400 or $500 in the course of 3 hours, and then he goes off and fishes or does whatever else he wants to do the rest of the day, because he has he gets in, he sells his hot dogs around lunch, and then that's it for the day. That is a great business model. He has almost no overhead. He keeps his prices. He gives you a consistent product, and you don't have to wait around. It's a reasonably priced thing, and he has very low overhead. That is a strong business model, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's keep that in mind with the Longaberger Basket Company.
And then we're going to go to the 90s.
So the Longaberger Basket Company has this company where they're cranking out baskets. They're making $1 billion.
They're printing money.
They're making, and so this, I'm not judging. I don't know, but I'm saying if you're just strictly looking at this in terms of business, okay, you got to keep your business working first before you start buying all the bells and whistles. Well, Mr. Longaberger decided that they needed a new office complex.
New headquarters.
So he basically took a basket and he set it down. It looks like you said, like a picnic basket. And he said, he went to the architects and he said, I want you to build me this. Mm-hmm. And to their credit, what they did, this building looks exactly like a big picnic basket or something with the handles on top. And so it was a great idea. I mean, it's novel. If you drive by, there's no question about what this business does.
Oh, no.
However, this thing costs like I think they said $32 million to build. And I have to believe
180,000 square feet.
Okay, so Allan, the big noteworthy thing about this construction, the building itself is interesting looking, but there's nothing special about there's nothing unique about it. However, when you get to the handles, that's what we wanted to talk about. So these are giant handles. They're made, I don't know what they're made of. They got to be steel or something. They each weigh 75 tons.
Yes.
And then they're heated because if you have ice buildup, it's going to crash down onto the skylight right below.
The skylight over the atrium.
So that the snow and everything melts on it. But okay, that's what I was interested in, because you and I have been talking. I mean, we're thinking at least a third of the building costs had to go into just the handles alone, right? I mean, these were pricey to do this.
Well, yeah, and also because of the weave pattern of floor number 1, really easy to do. Okay. Floor number 2, really easy to do. Floor number 3, now you got to line everything up with floor number 1. So as you keep going up to keep the basket aesthetic,
right? These
things have got to line up perfectly. They've got to be the same type of construction. They've got to hold up. And it really, when you look at this and you look at it and he goes, it really looks like a basket. Well, every one of those scoop outs is a scoop out.
Yeah.
You got to build it. It's got to be the same angle.
There's windows there.
It's got to be the same coverage. It can't store water.
Right.
So all of this is going into building this building up. It has a center atrium, and we all know nothing is more attractive and more wonderful to a building than a skylight.
It looks great. You're in the atrium.
Nothing is more detrimental to a building than a skylight.
You have 150 tons of these free-floating, big handles right above your head.
Giant steel handles,
right?
That had to be custom heated so that ice and water wouldn't build up on them during a storm or during the winter and come crashing through the skylight over the atrium.
Right.
So a lot of money got spent on the aesthetic of the building rather than just a 180,000 square foot building.
Right. Yeah.
So I would say probably a good 40% of the cost of this building really has nothing to do with being able to go to work.
No, it's the aesthetic.
It's the aesthetic of the building. I mean, it is a big and I got to tell you, no matter what picture you look at, whatever angle you look at this, it looks amazing.
No, it's cool. I mean, it does look like a basket. But Allan, you and I were also talking about the fact that this was built. So I think they started it in 94, or they designed it, and it was completed in 1997.
Yep.
And we were talking about just the difference in technology, even between, 1997 wasn't that long ago, but in terms of technology, we've had a lot of leaps.
25 years.
This thing probably these days would have been built of carbon fibers. It probably would have weighed up, a tenth of what it weighs now, right? I mean, it could have been done a lot differently.
Yeah, 10 years later, the structure design probably would have been drastically different.
Right.
So we're right at the end of the 80s and 90s building turn with their technologies. And great technologies. The building looks great. It's still holding up. It's still sitting there. But wow, did they spend a whole lot of money on stuff that had nothing to do with being able to plug in your computer.
Or sell baskets, because, I mean, that's what their business is all about.
Right.
And I want to mention something else. So if you go to their head, okay, so this is where their offices were.
Right.
This isn't where they made the baskets.
No.
So they had a big factory that employed, like, at one point, over 8,000 people.
Right.
I mean, and then, so this Mr. Longaberger, I hate to say it, he reminds me a little of, like, Walt Disney or something in terms of, so when you pull up, it's not just a matter of here's the factory over here. He wanted to recreate, like, basically an old Americana town square. Right. And it's like almost like you're pulling into a whole neighborhood, and it's got in the middle, it's got this big basket of apples, or, I mean, this thing's like 20-something feet tall.
So this whole thing is like that Simpsons box factory. He's like, oh, where's the finished box? Oh, that's at Flint, Michigan. Oh, that's at the boring factory over the little town square.
Max can't let go of the Simpsons. I mean, he's
it's okay.
But it's so you pull up, and so there's in other words, Mr. Longaberger seems to really focus on bells and whistles, because none of this, a town square, a basket-looking office building, does not generate any money for you. That costs you money. In addition to that, he had this antique barn that he thought would be nifty to have on site, and he basically paid the fees to dismantle this thing and move it. And we're talking a barn doesn't paint a picture. This is a massive structure. I don't know what it even cost. That it had to cost millions to do this. So you have all of these expenses and all of these flashy things. And if the economy takes a turn, which it did, now you suddenly have all these liabilities, because now you have a building that, how the heck do you resell a basket building? Are you going to get your $32 million back?
No, you're not. What's going to say?
So now we're straying into the conversation of solid business practices, because the Longaberger, let's just cut to the chase. The Longaberger Basket Company doesn't even exist anymore.
Yeah, they do.
Right? Do they?
They're
I thought.
still
Are you
around.
sure?
Yes.
I think they're gone, Allan.
No,
The latest
I'm
video
looking
I
at their
saw-
website as we speak.
Okay, so they're still scratching and clawing along, but
Well,
they're not what they used to be.
They
right?
are not what they used to be. They are still selling their wonderful baskets.
Okay.
But they are a much smaller, much tighter organization who sells via the internet, home decor, baskets, and that type of thing. But
Okay.
yes, the Longaberger Company still exists.
Okay. Well, that'll be interesting to follow up with,
But
because
they are
I
not.
watched.
They are not the $1 billion a year industry that they were in 1999.
Well, see, that's the thing, because we talk about. Well, we were just talking about Larry Brown and Jay Hill. We're talking about solid business principles, and to me, it's neat having a building that looks like a basket and everything. But at the heart of it, if you're not smart with your business, you're not going to be around. And it sounded like they were a little slow to adapt to the new business models that were emerging, especially when it came to internet sales and everything.
Right.
Once the internet came along, it changed everything. And if you didn't adapt, you were history.
You got hit. Yeah, you did.
All right, so we'll continue that conversation, and we've got some other interesting points to get to. You're listening to Tool Talk Radio here at News Talk 98.9 The Roar, Memphis. We'll be right back.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
How tough am I? How tough am I? I had a bowl of nails for breakfast this morning.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
That's what my uncle said before he bit the dust.
Allan, what do you like to garnish your nails with?
Just remember, you have to floss after biting the dust.
Exactly.
So, there.
So welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. And we invite you to go to the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page and check out all the action over there. And send us your ideas. We like listener feedback. We have a few loyal listeners that are pretty good about sending us feedback, but we want more. So, and especially if you've got any ideas for future, I would say future great moments in building history, or future, even more fun, future segments for historically terrible, which
Yeah.
you and I are just having too much fun with those because
I'm having more fun because I get to push the button.
he gets to push the button. You and I get to vent more or less.
reminisce and go, wow, that really was a terrible idea.
And we can't monopolize the 1970s, but I guarantee the 1970s are going to be a part of the conversation for years to come.
I'm going to pick on 50s institutionalization before too much longer. I promise you.
So a lot of ways to interact. So, hey, Allan, before the break, we were talking about in our great moments in building history, we were talking about the Longaberger Basket Building in Newark, Ohio, which is right there off the freeway. I guess you can. Is it the freeway or whatever? It's a pretty busy road, and it looks just like a basket. It was meant to be. Okay, so they have their factory over here that does the actual making of the baskets, and then this was their corporate headquarters, you could say. And at the time they built this in 1997, I heard people were saying this company was unstoppable. They were doing $1 billion in sales every year. Right. They were employing 8,000 employees and everything. Well, I was starting to do the math in my head, Allan. 8,000 employees and $1 billion in sales that actually sounds like some pretty tight margins. You've got a manufacturing plant. You've got what we were mostly focusing on was it seemed because the Longaberger Basket Company we're debating, but it really is no more, right? The Longaberger family isn't even a part of this anymore, right?
Correct.
It went. I mean, they went from 8,000 employees to 300 or 400 employees, and we submit that part of it is probably because you just spent $32 million building a giant basket building that now, and then when they resold it, some guy snatched it up for like $1.2 million. That's not a very good return on your investment.
I'm thinking of a lot that happened between 97 and 2001 because you had a huge revolution in a lot of businesses. You also had .com. Mm-hmm. So you had businesses out there that were being funded in the billions of dollars,
right?
That are gone. They were gone by 2001, 2002, because .com became .bomb, and a lot of business practices kind of went out the window. And by 2013, the Longaberger Company and their business practice had pretty much hit the skids.
Well, the thing is, you talked about the different business practices in the old. You might have a contract with Max, and he has a contract with me for like you make the baskets. I have a retail store that sells the baskets. By the time I actually get my baskets, I probably paid 2 or 3 different middlemen to get it. Well, when the .com thing comes along, I might be able to eliminate all those salespeople, and I just go straight to the Longaberger website and I say, send me 8,000 baskets of this thing or whatever. And if you don't adopt to that reality pretty quick, you may not be in business.
There are a lot of companies that agree with you.
And the reason I wanted to bring this up, and it is, we will say it's a nifty building. I hope they reuse it for something, and I hope they keep the handles, and I hope they keep it going and all that. But what I was mostly interested in was I was thinking of contractors and different business people you and I deal with where we've been through some of these different changes, Allan. If you don't adapt to the newest technology, or like not only the newest building technology, but just the newest way to market your business, you're going to get left behind. I hate to say, I mean, you have to, if you don't have a smartphone and a website and quick ways of getting people estimates and things like that, you know what I mean? It's
I believe the technical term you want to use is, are you meeting marketplace expectations?
Right. Yeah.
Do you have the stuff to work in the marketplace that you're now in?
Right.
And a lot of companies that built these huge sprawling headquarters and that kind of stuff, it's kind of ironic that it's rarely 100 years later. Mm-hmm. It's generally within a decade that there's a new technology shift, or there's a next economic revelation happens, and suddenly these huge megaliths begin to fail.
Right.
Or I'll even pick on of another huge thing going on in the 80s and 90s was shopping malls.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that was the hangout. That's where you went.
The bigger, the better.
Right.
And
they're dying.
They're rapidly becoming a fading piece of architecture. Here in Memphis, the largest one has already been removed.
Yeah.
You know, the old Mall of Memphis is
With
an
the
empty
ice rink
field.
and everything. Yeah. Yep. So, well, I think that's what it is. This is a cautionary tale. And you said that the Longaberger basket. Now, the thing is, fundamentally, they made a great product. They made good quality baskets. That's a noble thing. They're supplying people with something that they need. It's just you got to do it smart. You can't, you know.
Well, they even had at one point like 45,000 independent contractors. They called them home consultants.
Right.
They were the ones doing the shows and doing the home parties and it was a lot of people involved in this company.
Right. So
And they still exist. They're now part of XELB. Of basically the Robert DeLorean, the guy with XL Brands.
Is that
That's
DeLorean?
Robert W. DeLorean, not the other. There's more than one
That's
DeLorean.
John DeLorean.
Yeah, there's more than one DeLorean.
Okay.
So XL has continued the brand, and they have a lovely website, and you can still get a amazing Longaberger basket should you so desire.
Okay. I did have one beef, though, Allan. I just want to say this. So, okay. Because what's going on now is more or less somebody bought the building. They, like we said, they paid $1.2 million. It cost $32 million to build in 1997. So this is more or less, I would still call that a newer building. This is a modern construction.
Within its economic life.
So that's a huge, I don't know what the math is on that, but that's a huge loss that's pennies on the dollar. The other thing is then COVID hit. So the building's just basically empty. The one thing, though, that I've been told is that they're trying to register this with the Register of Historical Places because they're saying it is a landmark equivalent to the St. Louis Arch or something like that, or the Seattle Space Needle. And I'm like, okay, I kind of got to draw the line at this. This is a building with two big handles on the roof. This is no, the St. Louis Arch is one of my favorite constructions of all time. I think it is just one of the most, and the effort it took to make that and the quality of that construction, I don't think you can put this basket building up next to that. I'm sorry, I don't.
What is art in the eye of the beholder?
I guess.
I don't know. We'll have to find out what's next. The building is back up for sale again.
Yeah.
So if you got $6.7 million, you can decide what happens.
It'd be a
to the
great
basket.
place for a hotel or something. Or
they've thought about that. They're thinking about possibly even a tech tie-in that might come up.
Okay.
But we'll follow this story and see what happens.
Yeah, I would say if you want some, just go jump on YouTube and watch some videos about the Longaberger Basket Building. So, all right. Hey, Allan, let's shift gears though. You've got a story that we didn't tease at all, but it's fascinating, and I think it ties into our discussion today.
Hail science!
So, what do you got for us, sir?
Well, we've been looking at a giant basket.
Yeah.
That would, especially for 97, this is amazing craftsmanship and building but they didn't have a 3D printer.
No, this is just, if they'd have waited 10 years.
10 years.
To
but,
build
10 years later,
well,
they
maybe
wouldn't
20
have built
years,
this building,
but yeah. So, okay.
All right.
So 3D, we're going to 3D printing.
So ask me how far 3D printing has gone. I dare you.
Well, I know that in the early days of these conversations with you could, it started with 3D printing plastic and things like that. Now you're telling us in the future, doctors are going to be 3D printing like a replacement lung for you or things like that. So
that's not in the future, Joe. That's now.
And of course, we've seen these giant 3D printers that are more or less making. You just stick it up on a slab and it's pouring a concrete, house for you or something like that.
That's a product called Lavacrete.
Okay, so yeah, you're preaching to the choir, Allan. I know 3D printing's come a long way. So,
all right, you ready?
Yep.
All right, let's go to Georgetown, Texas.
Okay.
Icon, a construction tech company, along with Lennar, a home construction company, and the Bark Ingalls Group, which is the architects.
You say Bark?
Yep, BJARKE.
Are they from Iceland or something?
Yes,
or
this would be a European architecture company.
They don't like vowels over there, or what?
They are going. Okay. They have put in the paperwork to build and develop Wolf Ranch.
Oh,
a 100-home 3D printed community.
Wow, Wolf Ranch sounds cool. That would be That's a good name for a band.
Yep.
So 100 home. Let me do the math on this. 100 home. That's a pretty big. How many acres? That's a pretty good amount of
That's
acres.
miles.
Okay.
Yeah, we're talking an entire community.
Okay.
An
3D
entire
printed,
community.
eh?
And the big thing is they have already set up and begun, and the product that they're mostly using is a variation of concrete called lavacrete.
Is it lighter? It sounds
Well,
like it would
it's
be
printable.
lighter. Right.
It's
Malleable.
formable and pressure printable,
Okay.
so that they are going to 3D print an entire community.
I wonder how long it takes to print one house and how many printers they have, and then how much of, because obviously it's not like you just print a house and you move in. There's parts of it that'll be printed, and then you still need craftspeople to build out and to trim it out.
There'll be, there'll be some robots, there'll be some drones, there'll be some people, but talk about the size of this project. This is absolutely off the hook. So you're going to be 3D printing over 100 homes plus the associated community.
Okay. And this is Texas, so it's going to, and this is, I'm thinking.
A little north of Austin, Texas.
I've never been to Austin, but I just know Texas has some pretty, they get pretty extreme weather with the heat, tornadoes.
This is what's called the Hill Country.
Okay.
And it is dead center of what you would consider classic Texas.
Okay.
It's a little dry.
Tumbleweed.
It's a little mesquite.
Right.
It's not desert. I mean, it's not out in the plains, but this is just a little north of Austin. And Austin has a fairly good water supply. And again, it's classic mesquite, Texas.
Okay. I've got several questions, Al. So, okay, 100 homes. Now, obviously, it's in their best interest to get these things built and sold and, people moving in and everything. So is this more efficient than hiring, 500 craftspeople to build a home? I guess I'm wondering what this actually looks like. You've got, because obviously they can't buy 100 3D printers or something like that. I mean, so they probably have, 2 or 3 going at a time. They print out whatever they're doing, and then they move it to the next slot or something?
Well, all right. Well, keep in mind,
trying to envision
the
this.
biggest thing to this is supposed to be an environmentally sustainable community.
Oh, okay.
It is going to be, as the architects have put it, it is going to be architecturally striking, but they are going to stay with the Texas ranch house style, which is fundamentally the standard house in Texas. It's got the front porch and all that good stuff on it.
Yeah.
But what they're looking at is the tech of actually building the home. Like you and I have talked about, if you thought about a house from beginning to end and said, what I really want is,
right,
that's what they're doing. And they have set up the 3D printing. So basically, the robotic part of this is just going to keep moving through the community as we keep just building in phases. So house number 1 starts printing. House number 2 is getting the slab. House number 3 is getting cleared. And then you just start moving the entire process in a very efficient manner all the way through the community. Now, this is not, none of these companies are new to this game. All of them are already known people in the building industry.
Right.
So it's not like they're figuring out, well, what happens if you dig a sewer right here? They already know.
Okay.
So they're already good at community planning. But what they're doing is really automating and more or less perfecting the system of, if we've got the walls right on house number 1, I'm not worried about building and worker fatigue on house number 13.
Right. Okay.
I'm going to get the exact same construction, the exact same quality, the exact same materials in house number 50 as I did house number 25, as I did house number 1. Because as we all know, if you're using all human crews, even though they're building the same floor plan, your house may be fabulous. Mine may be a little bit of a lemon.
Well, I was wondering because obviously they're not going to have exactly the same floor plans for each of these homes. Otherwise,
No,
look like communist Russia or something.
Well, they have different floor plans. They're going from about 1,500 square feet to about 2,300 square feet.
Okay.
You can get a 2 or 3 bathroom, 3 or 4 bedrooms. So there's some various styles, but all of this is pre-programmed in to the 3D printer going onto the lot.
I guess what I'm wondering is with these, because, we were just talking about business, a business model and things like that. Well, we have all the, let's face it, every 5 or 10 years, there's some just new landmark technology that comes along that makes something else kind of either obsolete or just, not useful anymore. And I'm just wondering if you're a construction company, the real challenge, those do look good. Allan just showed me a picture of the house. It looks like a really nifty little ranch house. So, yep. But the thing is, Allan, let's suppose you're a construction company. Well, if I need a 3D printer that prints a ranch house, it's got to be expensive, I'm sure. How many of these do I buy? How much, which model do I get? Which, you know what I mean? Like some of these things, it's just a lot to consider. And if I buy a bunch, I might stay ahead of my competition for a while. But what if the next thing comes along and then makes it? It's a real balance. It's not like it's just. I don't know.
It is, but we have 100 homes to go in this community, and what's going to happen about house number 5 is we're really going to dial in the timing.
Okay. Yeah, that's probably true.
You and I have worked together before on projects.
Right.
And we all know that the first time you do something is the slowest, most painful part of it.
Yeah.
About the third time you've done it, you really start kind of getting your groove.
Well, how many times have we bought something from IKEA or something? Maybe you buy 4 or 5 of these assemble yourself cabinet. Well, the first one is slow. Once you've built the first one, you're like, okay, I don't even need the instructions
I got
anymore.
the logic now. I know what widget goes where.
Right. And you do it 5 times faster than the first one.
Yeah, the 4th or 5th cabinet you build is like a whiz. And you just fly through it. You're not even reading, you're not even translating the instructions anymore. So what I'm curious is, because they're using a lavacrete substance on this, you're using already an R factor in the walls.
Well, see, I'm trying to envision this art because, the only 3D printed house I've seen so far was more artsy. It had like wavy walls, and part of it was the waviness added to the strength to hold the roof up and everything like that. But what you showed me is basically, I would not know that was a 3D printed house. It just looks like a normal ranch house. So I guess what I'm trying to figure out is what the 3D printed part, what is that? What are they printing actually? Or is this replacing the frame?
Yeah.
So you're not going to have studs. You're not going to have.
This is going to be a lavacrete printed floor plan.
So no studs. Is it the roof? Is the roof printed this way too? Or
well, again, you're going to have different 3D printers producing different aspects of the production. And and these are not truly 100% 3D printed. They will be hybrids.
Okay.
So we're going to 3D print the efficient parts, but where it's more efficient to have your crew come in and put in the studs or do the wiring or, the human interaction on this is going to be hybrid with it. But a lot of the everyday just grunt work of getting a house put together is going to be done by the robots.
Okay. Well, this is sounds like it's a first, doing, I don't know that we've seen this big of a complex being built. I mean, 100 houses, that's a lot. So,
yes.
Okay. So
just pointing out,
everybody.
Kind of pointing out, we're talking about the robots are coming. Well, the robots are here. And they're building houses.
Okay. Well, let me shift gears, Allan, because I want to share something, and this has nothing to do with robots. This has to do with good old-fashioned just skill. Well, I guess there was a little technology involved, but I just wanted to share something that that I saw yesterday. It really just kind of warmed my heart and really made me appreciate things. But I've been on this job, as you know, Allan. I'm in the middle of a bathroom remodel where I'm doing the carpentry work, and I basically did all the demolition work, which involved they have an upstairs shower, and it's it's an upstairs bathroom with a shower, but this shower area was one of these where it was fully enclosed. There was walls on each side. It really, you look in it, it was like a cave. It had dark tile.
Right.
It was badly lit. It was just kind of dreary and depressing, and it was eating up a lot of space too with that, So I ripped everything out. I tore the walls out, and so what they're still gonna have a walk-in shower, but it's gonna have those fully just glass doors and everything. Well, we're finally at the stage where the tile guys came in. And man, was that something to see? Because I know how to do tile and I can do it, but it's not my specialty, and it's not, concrete work is not. Don't hire me to do concrete work; it'll take forever, and I'm not the person. So I really have an appreciation when you see that. But these guys came in, and if you can picture, I had a little pad that I constructed. I had to make sure it was perfectly level and all that other. But their job was to come in and put in that rubber liner,
right,
and then fill it with concrete. And these guys, man, he was floating this out with he was talking to me. He's barely even looking at it. And I'm watching him do this, and I looked at it, and it was as smooth. I mean, it was almost as smooth as glass. And I'm like, that is a skill. I mean, that's something to see, watching somebody do that. And then, I mean, it's just really cool to see that level of craftsmanship,
There is nothing better than watching somebody doing something that they are really good at and obviously love doing.
Yeah, yeah.
And tile work, I like to call it magic with mud, because it can be amazing when it's done correctly.
Well, from top to bottom, these guys did great. So what I was going to do is next week I'm going to have pictures, and I'll post it on the website
awesome.
and all that. Hey, Allan, real quick before we get out of here, we haven't even plugged what we're doing. So what's going on with Dark Oak Media over there this week?
Well, Dark Oak Media has all kinds of new stuff. We got a brand new episode of It Came from the International Market. There will be an episode of Cooking in a Tiny Kitchen. And, of course, all of our podcasts are up. And, once again, really thrilled to be part of the podcast family over at YouTube.
Awesome. So, okay. For me, let's see. If you have an outside project for your home that involves wood, that's my specialty. And I do keep a low overhead, so my prices are affordable. If you want a deck or a pergola or patio cover or anything really an interesting outdoor wood project, give me a call. You can call me directly at 901-921-7105 or go to my website, thorshomes.com. Allan, the end of the show sort of snuck up on me. I just
it got here quick.
But I do want to. I will circle back next week and share some stuff with these tile guys. Top notch work. It's always great to see that. So, but it's time to get out of here, Allan. The clock waits for no one. So you've been listening to another interesting and action packed episode of Tool Talk Radio. But it's time to get out of here. So on behalf of my buddy Allan Gilbreth and our pal Max over there behind the glass, I'm Joe Thorderson. Thanks for listening to Tool Talk Radio, and we'll see you next week.